Hi all, this is Simone Rich, and in this video I will again summarize one of the books on Kundalini, and I decided not to summarize the book Kundalini, The Serpent of Fire by Darrell Irving, because the other three books pretty much cover everything that is found in this book. So the last book that I'm going to summarize about Kundalini is called Kundalini Diary, A Visual Journey into Meditation by Santosh Sachdeva. It looks like this. And I really like this book because it basically is a diary of one woman who went through the Kundalini awakening, and she also was able to astral project, so it's different from the account that is given by Gopi Krishna. And again, this shows that Kundalini awakening happens in different ways for different people, and that the abilities that you get once you go through this born again experience are different for different people. So again, I'm going to read out the quotes from this book, and sometimes I will give my commentary on them. And I like this book because it also visually shows, for example, like here. So she basically showed also in paintings, in her drawings, what she had to go through, and the visions that she received when this awakening was happening to her. Okay, one of the diary entries. If I were to see a madman who was stuck on being a horse, I would now know that what was amiss was that he did not have a guru. It is by the grace of the guru that I have not got attached to the different dimensions of consciousness or become a mental case. I have taken each experience as a conscious experience in consciousness. So she is writing this about in relation to the experience that she got, and it's very frequent experience, and I had it as well, that you when you meditate long time, you start identifying with you may start identifying with different objects. So for example, you look at some being and that consciousness transfers there, and you know what it is to be that being. That's why she says that some people, when they identify with those objects, either animate or inanimate, they may like that experience and remain, and so their bodies, they remain unresponsive. So this is a danger if you don't come back to the body, and that's why she says that guru is required, so that people don't get into these traps. Or I remember when I was meditating, I felt like I'm everything, the whole world. When you meditate, you transcend the body consciousness, and then you understand what you really are, and this is that unconditioned being, and so you can identify with anything in this world. But currently we have this life experience, and we have to be identified with that, and so there is a danger if you don't have guru, that you may like that experience so much that you will just remain identified with some kind of object rather than going back into the body. I became aware of the Kundalini moving in the brain. To surrender totally at this stage becomes difficult, but I'm also aware that if I don't do so, considerable and permanent damage can be caused to the brain. I stopped to get my thoughts and feelings together to examine them. Why the questioning now? Hadn't everything been taken care of right down to the finest details so far? So she knows that what she had to go through, all the purifications of her body were beneficial to her, and she knew that she's being taken care of, that she's being cared for. But when this cleansing process started happening in her brain, she got scared, and the same happened to me. even the heart, which is such a delicate organ, had been worked upon with the utmost care. At no stage was I left feeling abandoned as far as my health was concerned. On the contrary, my earlier problems of spondylitis, chronic sinus, and hypertension had also been taken care of. So where was this distrust and confusion coming from? I came to the conclusion that I was in safe hands and could surrender completely in order that a total transformation take place. This allowed the Kundalini to work at her own pace, erasing old grooves and reinscribing new ones over them in the brain. That's what Kundalini does. And it removes all the negativity from you, but when this is brought into your consciousness, you need to acknowledge that if you keep suppressing what's been brought out of your subconscious back into it, then this transformation is not going to happen. The sensation it gave was that of a master craftsman at work. Indeed. These shifts, coupled with the erasing and reinscribing of the grooves, also gave me greater clarity on what I had been experiencing. I became more sensitive to the fragrances and the nada sounds. I was more conscious and aware of my astral travels. This is what happened when she allowed the brain to be cleansed. I was heartened to realize that even here a mere master or a guide was always present, though mostly unseen by me. And also this woman, she when she started experiencing demonic phenomena, seeing scary faces and scary beings, she actually did not get frightened because she did not have that belief that we are supposed to be afraid of demons, but she just did not react to those beings, and and they actually try to torture her, and this happens during the awakening. Demons see that you're becoming a bright being, and they want to suppress that, and they come to torment you. But she was not afraid of that because she did not have those concepts that we have as growing up in Christian environments, that we are supposed to be really afraid of those things. But she did not have that conditioning, so she just did not react to those beings, and so eventually they did not get any energy from her, energy of fear, and so they just left her. And this was actually, she discovered that was actually one of the processes of awakening. She just had to go through the stage, and then after that she was no longer tormented by them. But most people stop at this stage, including myself, because I got so frightened when this started happening. I did not even see actual demons, but I felt the presence of something unsettling, and it totally frightened me. So it's amazing to read diary entries of women who did not react to these things. Or another lady, she also got she went through the awakening. When she got in touch with these demonic beings, instead of becoming frightened, she started researching what they are. So she understood that some of them were disembodied entities, some of them were psychic vampires, some of them were demons, that there were different kinds, and some of them were ghosts, and all of them are different kinds of beings. So she just researched who they are, and then she researched more about Kundalini experience, that she would have to go through this. And so again, she did not get frightened. So this is amazing how different people react to this experience, and I really need to learn from these people. And both of them were women, actually, whose accounts I read. Morning meditation. I have no idea what has happened. During the course of meditation, I recite the affirmations. Suddenly, everything in me stops. There is stillness all over, as if the whole universe has come to a standstill. The elemental body consciousness remains, but Chetna, which is consciousness, has left. Not being able to move the body can be very disconcerting. Although the mind stays with the body, it's not in control. I wonder if I'll even be able to move my limbs. It is as if an order has been issued. I try to think of my Ishta Devata, which is personal form of God, Shiva, my guru and my guide when I can't get my brain cells to work. What I am to do in such a situation? I have no will. Words are inadequate to convey this experience. The ears stop hearing, the eyes stop seeing, the brain stops functioning, and I cease breathing. It's as if I am completely switched off. So this is one of the experiences that might happen during this awakening, but I did not experience this. While asleep in the afternoon, I dreamed that I am at the Guru's residence telling him about yesterday's incident. In my dream, he tells me that it was an out-of-body experience. I resolved to verify this with him, and when I meet him a few days later, he says that the experience was a state of deep meditation. This shows that one cannot fully trust dreams. Sometimes it's our minds making up things, but actually she says that sometimes Guru indeed was able to communicate with her through visions. Then I dream of being in the vicinity of an evil force. I see another tantric. Tantric is an adept in tantra. There is no doubt that tantra is one of the yogic ways, one of the yogic paths. There is no doubt that I am also a tantric in the dream. He is about 40 years old, tall and slim, with long black hair and a beard. He is wearing a white dhoti. His torso is bare. I can clearly recall his piercing eyes and combative stance. I recite my mantra with gusto. I also start spinning at a great speed, throwing myself in the air. I succeed in shattering the evil force. This is repeated once again as I shatter the evil thought form of the other tantric. At both times there is a massive explosion like a thunderclap in the head. And she is discovering that when in visions and dreams she is faced by dark entities, she does not need to run away, but she actually has the power to fight back. So this is again something similar to the movie Matrix, where you realize that you are in control of this reality, and so you can defeat dark forces. But before she was able to do this, she was held by different spiritual beings. But when she learned to defend herself, she no longer needed the help of other spiritual beings when she realized that she actually has power to defend herself. He says, Guruji at the stage phenomena, her guru says that I had tortured my body by doing different penances in previous lives. What I got to understand was that my body was now trying to adopt the postures I had been accustomed to. I bring this matter to Guru's attention. He says that the numb feeling in the brain is the result of deep meditation. He suggests that I fix a particular time frame for meditation at the start of each session so that I can automatically come out of it when the time is up. So this is it's better to set particular times. If you do pursue meditation, if you do engage in meditation, then it's better to set each day particular amount of time for that and just get used to it, so that when later you get into deep states of meditation, that you don't lose yourself in meditation and come out only after hours. And this happens sometimes. For example, if you don't set time, and it happened to me before that it seems like just 30 minutes went by, but actually you were in meditation for 4 hours, and some people could be in meditation for a day or more. So to avoid this, get into the habit of setting time. There's a single file of kings or devas in procession. Then I see a funeral stretcher being carried by them. She's seeing a vision. Crowds of people are moving in one direction while I walk through going in the opposite direction. I see myself wearing a white dhoti. Dhoti is a cloth for like a skirt with its loose end slung over the upper body. For the first time, I see myself as a male. I realize that I am the dead man on the stretcher and I'm walking through my own funeral. So she's seeing a past life. While looking in the mirror, now this is for real, I am surprised to see my reflection disappear. This curious phenomenon lasts for a couple of seconds until I become fully aware of the blankness in the mirror. Much later, one of my friends also mentions that the same thing happened to her when she was a child, and she recalls the horror she felt upon seeing her mirror image vanish before her very eyes. In my case, there is only the sense of detachment that accompanies every quirk of the Kundalini experience. So this is again a very frightening thing that happens. You look at the mirror and you don't see anything. Your form disappears, and most people would get totally frightened. But again, this lady did not get frightened at all. So this is again all to do with our perception and our beliefs and what we were conditioned to be afraid of, and this actually makes our minds into prisons that we cannot free ourselves from. She did not have those beliefs, and there is no prison. She goes through these experiences flawlessly, but we are stopped because we have these mental cages and we don't even know, and they are beliefs. Be afraid of this, don't be afraid of this, and they stop us when this transformation process is taking place. The funeral is surely a coming to terms with the primal fear of death. It becomes increasingly clear that from here on, Santosh, this is basically commentary on her experience by the editor of this book. Santosh does not fear death or even look upon it in the same light that most humans do. This experience could have been cast aside as her merely brooding over death. But what makes this funeral vision significant is what follows. Her reflection disappears. In ancient India, unlike in the West, where this is a quality of the vampire, the disappearance of the reflection meant that one had achieved the perhaps temporary dissolution of the ego, the chief culprit in convincing us of our separateness from the rest of the universe. That her friend was horrified instead of elevated when it happened to her as a child only indicates that the culture has forgotten one of its most potent symbols. The Ardhanarishvara sculpture, God as half man, half woman, and anthropomorphic yin-yang, if you will, holds a mirror on its female side. As long as there is no reflection in that mirror, he, she, it is free from the stain of ego. Santosh was neither elated nor scared when it happened to her, which is as it should be. Totally, this awakening totally challenges your perception of the world. Today, the balance residue of thick black liquid is removed from a nadi of Kundalini passage. Basically, she sees how she's being cleansed, and she sees one of her nerves blocked with thick black liquid in the body, and Kundalini now finally clears it completely, without any hindrance, as if clearing the blockage from a pipe. All my past experiences have come forth while lying down after the exercises with my hands placed over the navel area as instructed by the Guru. A child or perhaps a dwarf throws a silver ball at me. This is obviously an encounter while passing through the astral realm. So astral realm is the most dangerous realm. It's the next realm from this physical existence. And you create everything with your mind there, and you witness the creations of other people, and that's a very horrible place because most people are very negative, and there are certain beings that live in that realm, and when they perceive that you are not from that realm, they may start attacking you. So she saw a dwarf throwing a silver ball at her. And during meditation, sometimes you enter that realm and you will see something being thrown at you. For example, I saw I think an older man throwing 2 snakes at me. So this is again a very common experience when some being throws you throws at you something, because they realize that you're not from that realm and they're kind of like defending their realm. This disturbed me when I first read it. In the Fabulous Tales of India, so this is again a commentary on her experience by this editor. The Brihata Katha Sarita Sagara, being a typical example, chasing a silver or golden ball thrown by beautiful children or girls or strange creatures is a sure recipe for trouble, an echo of which is found in the fairy tale of the Frog Prince. It looks like an attack from the dark side of the consciousness, which is jealous and resentful of her recent breakthroughs and seeks to tempt her. Immediately after this, Santosh sees the Sudarshan Chakra, the traditional weapon of Vishnu, famed as the protector and rescuer. So when she sees something that attacks her straight away, as some kind of spiritual being protects her during this travel in the astral realm. While resting in the afternoon, I see the low angle vision of a man's legs with his big feet and toes twisting, twirling and moving about in dance movements while being seated on a chair. Next, I see his arms from the elbows downward performing the same movements. Suddenly from the ground a form emerges with graceful motions and bows as if to say, "At your service, madam." He looks very much the clown and I can't help but laugh. He is no doubt a very popular entertainer from one of the rarefied dimensions. I ask Guru, does this mean that I now have my own genie like the one Aladdin had? He answers no. And the commentary on this is, clearly the dark side had not given up after the 14th July incident and was waiting for a chance to pounce. This figure is Tarot Fool, a figure sanitized recently but a genuine product of the shadow, as its original name, Lamat, the death, makes clear. It begins by beguiling and soon entraps one into doing things one shouldn't. So again, this shows that in the astral realm there are many dangers and you may be seduced, or maybe some spirit will try to attach yourself to you. So it's very important to be cautious and not to engage with such beings in that, with any beings in that realm. During the meditation, a stage comes when the consciousness can move out of the body. The Guru advises us to fix a time at the start of each session. Once this is done, the consciousness adjusts itself. Even if one is in deep meditation or engaged in astral travel, the body and the consciousness almost automatically readjust as the time draws near to return to the normal everyday self in the here and now. Thus, the consciousness seems to have an inborn respect for the limits of mundane reality. At one stage, someone catches me by the hair and rudely jerks me. I move out as light during meditation. I'm conscious of Guru's instructions about setting a time limit for my astral sojourns. I come back in the form of gold dust. At one stage, someone catches me by the hair and rudely jerks me. At another time, a form lifts another and hurls it in my face. No doubt, these are some more fleeting encounters with the beings inhabiting the astral planes. As I pass these different vibratory levels, I am probably seen as an unwelcome intruder. It is a natural reaction on the part of the inhabitants. What matters is my presence of mind. It is these attacks that can affect the human psyche and even result in mental disorders if they get frightened by them. And this is the commentary. Almost as an afterthought, Santosh mentions that she was frequently attacked in her astral journeys. Her focus was so steady on her spiritual quest that she had no time to get beguiled by these mind games, and this saved her. But the apprehensions of attack, as well as the shadows that rose to confront her in the last chapter, are clearly manifested here. As she said, her attitude pulled her out of any harm. The way that you react to these things determines whether you stop this process and have only bad experiences, bad memories, or when you're not attached, you go through this process into the breakthrough. I'm on a pilgrimage to Shirdi, so she's actually in a place, going to a place that is sacred to Hindus. I find it difficult to fall asleep since my body is too charged with energy. I'm an electrified being. I dream that a dark, well-built man touches my shoulders. I turn around and tell him to move away. I get the feeling that he's a leper. He starts to assault and molest me. I scream in anger, bite off his tongue, and spit it out. The whole struggle seems very real and physical. I think of Kali. So again, she protected herself, and it looked as though it happened in reality, but actually it was a vision, but it felt so real. Or it might be that it was an actual spiritual being that tried to attack her, but she knew now her power, and she protected herself without needing to call any other being. She had the power. She now is using the power to protect herself from these evil beings, and they are all around us, these evil beings. We just cannot perceive them whilst we are not yet awake. It's the same as in this reality. Some people are evil and some people are good. And now this is the last words from her. All thoughts come to us from without, and therefore we must treat thoughts as guests and not allow them to become hosts. The appropriate method of dealing with thoughts is to observe them and let them pass. Since my perception is best through visualization, I am given ample proof that as to why thoughts should not be allowed to build a permanent residence within us, but allowed in only as visitors. I have seen that every thought that was fed into my mind immediately assumed a form. So she has now ability to understand what happens when we accept a thought, entertain it, so that it as though inhabits us, and basically those forms assume a form. And so those thoughts assume a form, and this is my own experience as well, because when during meditation the subconscious content rises up so that I need to deal with it. Sometimes I see frightening figures and faces, but now I know that they are not some external beings. They are my own thoughts, evil thoughts that were suppressed into the subconscious. So when you are starting to deal with that, that subconscious content will come for you to process it, and you need not to be afraid of it. But don't suppress it, but just acknowledge it's there, and then it will dissolve. It stayed with me till I looked at it and acknowledged it before it moved out in the same form from my consciousness. So that thought, evil thought form, stayed with her until she acknowledged, until she looked at it and acknowledged it. And that's the only way to get rid of it. But most people, they don't want to acknowledge anything negative, and this is a new age thing that they do, and it's not beneficial to you to deny that there is anything negative. That when you acknowledge that you do have evil thoughts, you do have some unpleasant things in your subconscious, then you allow them to dissolve. You can do a little exercise for yourself. Think of any person, place, or thing, and then look into your mind. Do you see how your mind has created a form almost instantly? So if these thoughts are not allowed to move out, what is going to be happening is exactly what happens to a one-room apartment with 20 people occupying it. There is going to be a spillover into the doorway, into the passageway, and down to the stairway and into the compound. If you cling to your thoughts and do not release them, there is going to be clogging of the outlets, and rot will start setting in as the plethoric thoughts jam your system. Imagine hundreds of thought forms going yak, yak, yak in your brain. You are bound to have a heavy head or a migraine. If this form of energy starts putrefying, depending on the chakra, depending on the chakra it's related to, it's bound to cause an ulcer, tumor, or just plain congestion. If not rationalized or worked out and released, this energy becomes a part of your consciousness as your chronic disease, especially if it is a fatalistic or pessimistic thought. If we do not live consciously, then we are allowing all and sundry thoughts to filter into the subconscious, which works mainly to produce an output. I view the subconscious as a restricted operator in the sense that it has no discriminative power. It accepts everything, your subconscious. It does not know the difference between good or bad, right and wrong. Its job is to produce results. How important it is, then, that the conscious mind stand as a sentinel and always be aware and alert to check everything that passes into the subconscious. This is what is going to create your future. So that's all I wanted to quote from this book. It's a really good book because it describes what might happen to you when you're going through the awakening. So in this book, she describes her astral travels and sensations and visions that she got during her awakening process. And actually, she released 3 books in total about her experience. So this book again is called Kundalini Diary, A Visual Journey in Meditation by Santosh Sachdeva. I don't know if you can see it. So that's all I wanted to share with you in this video. Thank you for watching. God bless you.